Welcome, my friends. This is another conversation today. My dear friend Paul Meaney is with me. We're going to have a little conversation about the Community Preservation Act. Now, Paul is the Woburn Business Association's liaison to what are you, the liaison to the city of Woburn and the governmental offices?
Correct.
Right?
Yes.
So your job as a member of the board of directors on the Woburn Business Association is to pay attention to what's happening in City Hall or in the
Correct.
government. Okay. So you want to have a few minutes here to speak about, not a few minutes, you're going to get 30. And when you get to 28, Brian
shut
says,
me
hit
off.
the button. No, we can talk for 2 more. After we get to 28 on the clock.
Okay.
So now, we've had some discussions on this thing between us. So you are, I would say, you are pretty adamantly opposed about the Community Preservation Act.
I am.
You are. Okay. So of course, the other people are for it. You're against it. So why don't you give us the best reasons why the Woburn Business Association is against it?
Well, first of all, I'm of the opinion that Woburn doesn't need this. And the reason for it is that the things that now are being said about the CPA were not said 12 and 14 years ago when Governor Cellucci signed this. And we voted ought not to do it. And the reason for that is it was strictly for open space, to buy open space. At that time, it was 3%. Now this time around, it's 1%. And there are so many things that I say that are now put into the mix. It's not just for open space. It's to maybe help the library, we could have bought, maybe we can buy Shannon's farm, that's only $8 million. But we could maybe buy it under this 1%. The thing that bothers me is that every item, like at 40B, affordable housing, we can buy land to stop that. We can fix up maybe for veterans housing. We got a housing authority. We can do work in the parks. We have a parks department. Going back to the library, we have a board of directors of the library. So what the city of Woburn recently did, as you know, about 3 years ago, they passed the additional money for the meals tax. That's how we bought Spence Farm, which at the time, and bought the land over the west side of Woburn, which is John McElhinney's park. That's being paid for by the meals tax. Now, at the time, we weren't overly enthused about the meals tax, but it made sense that if I pay the extra 75 cents, then somebody from Chelsea that comes into Woburn every day, they pay it. So it's a tax that was divided mostly for people that visit Woburn, because we've got about better than 125,000 people that come into the city on a daily basis, whether to shop, to buy, to work. So this act is to put a tax on your home and mine. Now, we can call it a surcharge, we can call it anything, but I call it a tax. And our tax rate is now, on your home and mine, is $10.44 a thousand. So I would say this to you, sitting at home, you the voter. If the mayor of this city is Scott Galvin, if he raised your taxes $35 to $50, would he be mayor in a couple of years?
No.
Now, if the city council members adopt a budget that raises your taxes $35 or $50, do you think there'd be some changes on the city council?
Yes.
I happen to agree with both those answers. Now, This is something that affects you and I as homeowners. Why when a house sells up on Russell Street and was listed in the paper at over $700,000? Now you might say, well, good schools, good fire department, good police department. Would you think taxes comes into that? The word taxes? I happen to think it does. And I happen to think whoever bought that house, we're glad to have you here, but they came here, they didn't go to Lexington or Winchester, and I think what brought them here is taxes. So now we know what we're going to pay. In all of the discussions, and only recently, I've got the CPA, we'll say committee, to talk about business and industrial. You know, we are in a great community, and this community has a lot of business, and that business provides a lot of taxes for us and provides a lot of employment for us. Now, the tax rate on business, commercial, is $27.41 a thousand. That's double, more than double than you and I pay on our homes, per thousand. And there you have another tax that business pays for, which is called property tax. Now, property tax is involved in computers, anything in an office. Now, you and I might have a computer at home, and we might have a small area we use for an office. We don't get taxed on that. We don't get taxed on personal property tax. But the business people do. That's another tax. So I'm here to tell you, we don't need the Preservation Act. We don't need Question 5. We've discussed this. We've gone about it. I think we're doing it in a very professional way. We're trying to tell you, the voter in Woburn, to not vote for this, to vote no on Question 5. As you know, it's the only question across the city of Woburn that is what are considered to be a tax. Now, why would you ask me to vote for a tax on myself? If you want to tax me, you tax me. Then I have somebody that I can blame for taxing me. Why would you ask me to go in and vote for something that's going to raise my taxes? Burlington, good town of Burlington. I remember when there was cows and horses. They didn't even put this question on the ballot to the town meeting members. They have an election in April. It's not going on the ballot. Do you know Burlington has $1 billion in new construction on the table as we sit here? $1 billion in new construction. Go up across from the mall in the 5th Street and 6th Street and up in there where Wedman's is. You think you're in another community. But so if they have banging off the wall with their business and they don't adopt this, they got these businesses to come into their communities by giving tax incentives. You've got to have a carrot, a little bit of a carrot, and you get that business to come in. We're trying to do that now over in Washington Street, in the Grace property. We're trying to do it. I don't like the jelly closing, but I think we'll probably end up doing the same thing there. You've got to have tax incentives, not tax. Not having a tax put on them over and above what they pay now and what they would pay. As you know, there's comments about the Woburn Mall now going to be done over. It recently has been done over in the last 10 years. They're looking at it again. We're trying to get Commerce Way from Mishawam at the intersection of 128 up to the new ramp coming off of 93. We're trying to get that whole corridor. You know, we changed the zoning, we went for overlays, we've got liquor licenses that have been assigned in that area. we're trying to get development there. And to get development, they have to, first of all, want to come here. They have to have cooperation of this community and the government of the community, and they have to look at the bottom line, which is taxes. So if I thought that this tax was going to accomplish with all the things that the committee, CPA committee has said, it can't do it, and it won't do it. Now, let's go back to the history of this. Again, 2000. A tax was generated by the legislative that put a $10 fee and a $20 fee, a total of $30, on registration and passing of papers. When that passed, every deed that passes through any registry, we happen to be in the Middlesex Registry of Deeds down in Cambridge, but there are other registries. There's registries on the islands. All of those passings paid $30. Now that went into the CPA fund, and that's the time they told you that it was strictly for buying property, land. We were not going to be fixing libraries or helping people that own older homes that can't take care of them or this and that. Now that fund was created. Then they came back and asked you to vote for 3%. And you said no, and I said no. What happened to the amount of money that we put in there for that $30? Why didn't we ever get a chance to just get some of that back? Why do you have to ask us to spend more money? So what happened over the years is the communities of wealth. This city is a working man's city. And I'm going to say that. It has been, it is, and I hope it always will be. Communities of wealth, if I lived in Winchester, which I have a hard time driving through, never mind living there, or even Wellesley, or Newton, or Concord, their tax rate and their tax bill is, we'll say, $10,000 on a home. So their tax bill goes up to $10,500 or $11,000. You know what that means to the person that lives in that house? Nothing. Zip. They can afford it. You and I can't afford that. I know you can, and I can't. That's why I'm saying to you, if your taxes went up $35 or $50, I don't think the mayor would be the mayor in a couple of years. So that's where I stand and the Woburn Business Association stands on this issue. We just feel it's not needed. It's just not needed. Spence Farm came up, Shannon Farm came up, and all of a sudden now that's in the equation. You got to understand, this amount of money, to show a piggy bank that you and I put pennies in, and then have an arrow going to a tree that you shake and all the money comes out. Are you serious? Are you serious to say we're going to put pennies in this bank and we're going to go over and shake this tree and the money's going to come falling down? Mm-hmm. Come on. That's for the first and second grade, not for Woburn. Again, I stand on my beliefs. The Woburn Business Association stands on their beliefs. And I hope you vote no on question 5.
All right, so let me get involved here, sitting here like a dope. Now, just so what we're trying to do now is educate the people of the city of Woburn. You know, I mean, this guy comes in here on Monday nights, we kick around what's happening around the city, but this is a different deal. He's got a position from the Woburn Business Association. The other people have, their position is to pass it. So I want to be trying to solve some of the misunderstandings that evolve here. Okay, so like you say, Paul, let's go back to the beginning. The Community Preservation Act, comma, Establish to dedicate a funding source to acquire, create, and preserve open space. So your argument would be what? That we already can do that, we don't need them?
Well, at the time when that was the original law, and Governor Salucci signed it, it was strictly for open space, and Woburn voted it down. Woburn voted it down, and what we did, and to the advantage of us, we increased the meals tax, and then that's been very successful.
All right. Acquire, preserve, comma, rehabilitate, and restore historic resources, including historic buildings, acquire and create, preserve, rehabilitate, restore land for recreational use. So what about the historical part of it? They got, so they're gonna have money to rehabilitate and restore historic resources.
You know, Eddie, let's take some of the houses, and I think you're familiar with them. The big old, I call them big old houses on Main Street.
Yeah.
Dr. Leonard in that area there. Do you realize what it would cost to restore one of those?
Yeah, it would cost a few bucks, that's for sure.
I would think that if the CPA said, well, we're going to take a house and we're going to restore it, believe me when I tell you, you're talking about years, not happening in a year. It just isn't going to happen. So.
Now, I did a little research myself yesterday afternoon, and I come up with the fact that the confusion with the tax, like he said tax 1,000 times, the other people say it's not a tax. Okay, so I go and research, in the United States government says it's not a tax, it's a surcharge, because you cannot deduct it off your income tax. If it was deductible off your income tax, you could say it was a tax. But this way, it's a surcharge. So the way they collect the surcharge is to put it on your tax bill. So therefore, everybody says, well, this is all semantics or whatever. But the fact of the matter is, just so we are legally, we seem to know what we're talking about. So we probably shouldn't say tax. You can say tax. They can say, no, I'm going to say surtax.
Well, let me ask you this, Eddie. If it's on your tax bill, let's say your tax bill is $800, and now it becomes $854.
Yeah.
Are you going to write it off on your income tax?
I am, yeah.
I am too. All right, so I'm going to tell you, I am
too.
But
I mean, that's I think where the reason I found this out is because the person I talked to did that, and having a business, his attorney, tax person said, there's something wrong here with these numbers, and he looked it up and said, well, you added on the surcharge and you can't deduct that. That's how I found out about it. So it's true. It's added in there, and it's just the way they collect it. It's something like when you fill out your income tax, you check off the government will give the candidate money, and that's how they did it. They have to have a method to collect it, and that's the method they use. And unfortunately, in this particular instance, it makes people crazy because they go back and forth arguing over the words.
Yeah.
Now, I found out the other thing I found out, which I haven't got the answer to, is that they get money. As soon as the thing passes, like on Tuesday, they're already in the pot for getting X amount of dollars. And I'll have to find that out at a later date, how that works, because they haven't even got a committee and they're already getting money. We passed a law on medical marijuana 2 years ago. We haven't even heard anything about that. So these legislators, they just move quickly in the direction they want to go in.
They want to go.
Right. So the other part, I think, is not to take up your time, but there's going to be 9 members, I guess, of the board. We've figured out some of this stuff, I think, now. If you correct me, Jen, if I'm wrong. There'll be 5 members who get appointed. Maybe the mayor gets one, the planning board gets one, but it's going to be a member of the planning board. The conservation might get one. It's going to be a member of the conservation. So it's not somebody that the Conservation Commission is going to wake up someday and say, Ed Walker on, put Ed Walker on there, he can represent the conservation. No, it's going to be a member of that committee. The other 4 to make up the 9 are be appointed by God. I'm not sure how that works.
I don't think they know
how
that either.
works,
I would think probably the mayor of the city council.
Then there was, the discussion came around, and we've talked about before, about the building of the bureaucracy.
Layer of a cake, cake. We keep on getting layers.
Yeah, so we talked a little bit about this the other night. It's on tape, because anybody can watch it. We talked to when the city clerk was here. And he talked a little bit about when he was, when the the traffic commission was established, because they don't get paid, you know, and then you have to have a clerk, and you have to have papers. You have to have papers that say traffic commission. So people smile and they say, you're going too far down the road, but it's true. I mean, you have to start someplace, you know, and then you have to have a drawer to put your folder in, and you know, and then maybe a little office. I just take a little corner of your office over here. You know, I mean, then I've been 20 years. You know, I mean, you get a lot of people probably working there. I don't know whether that's cynical on my part, because I'm a cynical person, but I see that as,
I think you're right.
As a possibility.
I'm going to say this to you. I believe you're 100% right in that. We'll call it that theory.
And then the recommendations, I thought that the committee, if it passes, would make up a situation where they thought they might take an old building or redo some historical thing. We already have the Historical Society, we have the Historical Commission, and now we're going to get more people involved in the history of the city. Now, the difference there is the two groups that we have no money. So the 2 groups could be maybe supported in a historical sense from the thing. But I don't know whether that, you're raising money for the CPA, does that money, can you give it to the Woburn Historical Society?
I don't know.
I think you have to do it yourself, you know.
When I first met these ladies, they indicated that they were working on a shoestring, and they were using their own printers at their house and this and that, and which, I mean, that's a credit to them. But now when I see lawn signs up in various locations, matter of fact, I think 1 or 2 were put on properties without getting permission. But anyways, being that, I hope they file the necessary papers with the city clerk when this is over as to where that funds came from. Because I told you, a lobbyist came out here from Boston at the very first start of this at the city council. So I would think that there's a lot more background people behind this other than residents in Woburn.
I talked to some of them, we talked a little bit yesterday about the community, and I was wondering also about the, how do I say, when they get the money, they have to have meetings. They have to have meetings. It's the same thing as I guess I just said, you know, they have to have meetings where you have to keep records of what people said and all that kind of stuff, so it takes. So that was part of the bureaucracy building. But I still wondered whether, over a period of time, if there's that much money involved, like you could take a guess as to how much money is going to be raised right away. You know, I said, if they say there's 10,000 houses, there's around it, maybe 12 or something like that. So $50 a piece, that's $100 grand, right? So there'd be $100,000. I think it's 100,000. And now you add up all the businesses and add up, they could come up with a pretty good sizable piece of change. So now, if we raise that much, then the state is going to give them, supposedly, that much more. They just double it, right? So you double the money. Now, the only thing I'm saying is that, do you think is it you think? I see. This is cynicism again. Is you think that they might start infringing on the executive branch, as far as saying they'll go buy a piece of property. The mayor might say, "I'm saving that to build a school on." You know, I mean, so now there's a little discussion here about who are you guys infringing on my responsibilities, or maybe they'll do something for in the city council way. As you know.
Well, you heard them. They have said publicly that the Mason property, was it the Masons or the on Wyman Street? What's the religion?
The Mormons.
Mormons. I'm sorry, the Mormons. That they said that maybe they could have had money to buy that. Now, we know that property was over $2 million. And when the mayor tried to get into negotiation with them as to what we read, that they're not interested in selling. So then some person said, well, why didn't you take it by eminent domain? It's 2014. You might have an answer by 2020.
Yeah.
So, you know, these all things are outside the perimeter of the CPA. The fact is that this committee, under the open meeting law, has to keep minutes, has to advertise. Now, let's say we had this committee, and let's say they're going to have a meeting and a hearing or whatever the case is. You know, in the Woburn Daily Times, when you read the city of Woburn, all of those things that are put in there,
Yeah.
do you know that cost money? There's a cost there. You think the Times does that because I like Woburn? You have to pay for those advertisements. So much a column. So that's one. The city council, when they advertise, they have to pay for it when they have their public hearings. So it's duplication, in my opinion. And I don't think we need it.
I had that opinion too.
If we needed it, Eddie, I'd be the first one that stand here and say, you know what, it's a good deal. Let's take it. It isn't a good deal, and we don't need it.
If you said Salucci started this off when he first put it, it might have been a good idea then because we might have needed some of this money then. Right now, with the meals tax,
meals tax has helped us
a lot.
Yeah, it really has. I mean, you can ask the mayor; he'll tell you. I mean, I'm the first one that'll sit here and tell you I never thought it was going to generate that type of money. I really didn't. And
as a fair, I don't know if this is a fair question or not, but as a representative of the business committee, you were on the board. Besides, you represented them all the council meetings. What do you think? Where is the tax rate to a company coming to Woburn? Where is that on his list? Fifth, fourth? You know, he's got employees. He's got good roads. He's on 128. Where's his tax bill?
I'd say 2 or 3.
2 or 3.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, definitely 2 or 3.
Definitely 2.
One is location, and second is again the type of building he's looking at, if it's already up, or the piece of land he's looking at. Location is the most important. Accessibility to the major highways, and right next, what's it going to cost me to put up that building on? What's it going to cost me to lease that, and what is the tax? Oh, taxes are right on top.
Brian comes out, he's going to come running out here and punch me because he said, at 28, Phil, get out the door. You don't want anybody complaining about equal time or anything.
Well, listen, I want to say this. I enjoy coming with you and being here with you. I enjoy the people that work here. Brian has been more than fair, and I want to say that publicly. This is a great, you know, I remember when there was just in one newspaper and you hope that they got everything right. This is a great media, and this gets the word out. I kind of tell you that numerous times I've had people say, I saw you. Geez, you were right on target. You know, whatever the case may be. So I want to thank for giving the Woburn Business Association equal time. And all I do is ask for people to definitely look at 5, make a decision, make a good decision, make the right decision for Woburn. And we stick by this. We are not going to be changed. You can change me. I'm too old to change anyway.
Too old to change. All right, that was a great conversation. Look at, vote. I don't care who you vote for or what you vote for. I know how the gang's gonna vote, but write it down on a piece of paper. Write all these things down, how you're gonna vote. Baker, Coakley, all the way down to question 5, and you go in there, you'll be able to check off and get out of there quickly, because if you think you can read all this stuff and get out of there in a few minutes, you're crazy. Next time, thanks for watching.